Dr. Wakefield is being vilified through a well-orchestrated smear campaign. And here's what Congressman Burton said in 2002 at a hearing on autism. Dr. Wakefield, like many scientists who blaze new trails, has been attacked by his own profession. He's been forced out of his position at the Royal Free Hospital in England. He and his colleagues have fought an uphill battle to continue the research that has been a lone ray of hope for parents whose children have autistic enterocolitis. But tonight, the message from the BMJ could not be clearer or more shocking. Wakefield research, they contend, has been a fraud. Starting tonight, the Journal is publishing a series of articles by an investigative journalist, Brian Deer, who spent 7 years uncovering the bogus data behind Wakefield's claims. I confronted Dr. Wakefield earlier by Skype. Sir, according to this new report, not only did you do a study that was scientifically and ethically flawed, it was, quote, an elaborate fraud. An award-winning investigative journalist, Brian Deer, has published evidence that you, and I quote, altered numerous facts about patients' medical histories to support your claims of identifying a new syndrome, and that you also, quote, sought to exploit the scare among parents for financial gain. How do you respond?
Well, you know, I've had to put up with this man's false allegations for many, many years. I've written a book, and in
but
that
this is
book,
not just one man. This is published in the British Medical Journal.
Yeah, no, and I have not as yet had a chance to read that, but I have read his multiple allegations on many occasions. He is a hitman. He's been brought in to take me down because they are very, very concerned about the adverse reactions to vaccines that are occurring in children.
Wait a minute, sir. Let me just stop you right there. You say he's a hitman and he's been brought in by they. Who is they? Who is he a hitman for? This is an independent journalist who's won many awards.
Yeah, and he's, you know, who brought this man in? Who is paying this man? I don't know. But I do know for sure that he's not a journalist like you are.
Well, he's actually signed a document guaranteeing that he has no financial interest in any of this or no financial connections to anyone who has an interest in this.
Really? Well, that's interesting. You should say that because he was supported in his investigation by the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industries, which is funded directly and exclusively by the pharmaceutical industry. So,
according to him, he's received no funding from any parties that have interest in this over the last 3 years. But let's talk about some of the specifics that he is claiming. You're basically saying this is some sort of conspiracy against you. Is that your argument?
Conspiracy is your word. What this is a ruthless, pragmatic attempt to crush any investigation into valid vaccine safety concerns. Not just my concerns. I'm here at a meeting of experts on vaccines from around the world who are very extremely concerned about the safety of vaccines and the damage that they believe and I believe is being done to children.
But, sir, there's no proof of that, and your study is a fraud according to this latest investigation, which is taking quite some time. And, sir, let me just continue. It's not just this one journalist who's saying this, who you believe is some sort of a hitman. It's not just pharmaceutical companies or the AMA, and it's not just public health officials from around the world, and it's not just doctors from around the world. It's also other journalists who have looked into your research and found it simply incorrect. Are you saying that they're all in conspiracy against you?
No, they haven't. In fact, they've taken his story and treated it as verbatim, treated it as true. And if you read my book, you will be able to read the truth. And has the BMJ read my book? Have the doctors who apparently looked at all the records read my book? No, because the truth is in that book.
Well, sir, I've read Brian Deer's report, which is incredibly extensive. Sir, I'm not here to let you pitch your book. I'm here to have you answer questions. Brian Deer has talked to the patient, has talked to the parents of the patients who were in your original study, and he discovered that not one of the 12 cases you claim to have studied was free of, quote, misrepresentation or alteration. In no single case could the medical records be fully reconciled with the descriptions, diagnoses, or histories published in the journal. Some of the parents in your original study say what you claimed about their kids' medical histories was not true. Are those parents now lying?
That is false. He has not interviewed the parents. That is absolutely not true.
So you're saying no parents say that what you've said about their children's medical histories is false?
No, they don't. What I have said and what has been reported in that paper by me and my colleagues is exactly what we saw.
I want to read you some of the other specifics from the report. 3 of 9 children reported with regressive autism, according to Mr. Deer, did not have autism diagnosed at all. Only 1 child clearly had regressive autism. Is that true?
No, it's not. The diagnoses are as they were in the children. I did not make the diagnosis of autism. I did not make up the diagnoses. The diagnoses were taken from the clinical records and reviewed by experts at the Royal Free Hospital School of Medicine.
According to Mr. Dear, some kids were reported to have experienced first behavioral symptoms within days of MMR, the vaccine, but the records documented these as starting some months after the vaccine.
If you read the record that I have set out in the book, you will see the truth.
But sir, if you're lying, then your book is also a lie. If your study is a lie, your book is a lie.
The book is not a lie. The study is not a lie. The findings that we made have been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Sir, that's not true. You've been offered the chance to replicate your study, and you've never taken anybody up on that. You've had plenty of opportunity to replicate your study.
Accuse me of giving you a falsehood. I am telling you that this work has been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Then why has it been completely discredited by public health officials around the world?
I suggest you do your investigation properly before making such allegations.
We're going to have more with Andrew Wakefield in just a moment. He makes a lot of claims in his defense. Up next, how those claims in Wakefield stand up to more questions. We'll also, not just questions for me, but also Dr. Sanjay Gupta weighs in. News tonight about autism and accusations of flat-out fraud. A short time ago, the British medical journal BMJ lobbed a bombshell into one of the most emotional medical debates on the planet. The editors of the British Medical Journal say a controversial 1998 study linking autism to the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine given to kids is fraudulent. Not just mistaken, but fraudulent. A fraud deliberately perpetrated by the study's lead author, Andrew Wakefield. After years of controversy, the study was officially debunked last year when the journal that first published it, The Lancet, retracted the study. Months later, Wakefield lost his medical license in England. But his followers, including many parents of kids with autism, have stood by him. In my exclusive interview tonight with Wakefield, which I taped just hours ago, he defends his research. In part 2 of the interview, you'll also hear from 360 MD Sanjay Gupta and journalist Seth Mnookin, whose new book, The Panic Virus, is an exhaustive look at the controversy. First, here's more of Andrew Wakefield.
If you read the record that I have set out in the book, you will see the truth.
But sir, if you're lying, then your book is also a lie. If your study is a lie, your book is a lie.
The book is not a lie. The study is not a lie. The findings that we made have been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Sir, that's not true. You've been offered the chance to replicate your study, and you've never taken anybody up on that. You've had plenty of opportunity to replicate your study.
Accuse me of giving you a falsehood. I am telling you that this work has been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Then why has it been completely discredited by public health officials around the world?
I suggest you do your investigation properly before making such allegations. Okay? If you look up the name Gonzalez, if you look up the name Balzler and Krigsman, you will see that the work has been replicated independently by other doctors around the world. They failed to mention that in these allegations, and Dear has failed to mention that at any time. Is that honest?
Dear also says that patients were recruited through anti-MMR campaigners and that your study was commissioned and funded for planned litigation. You did have a lawsuit against manufacturers of the MMR vaccine, didn't you? I mean, didn't you have a financial conflict of interest?
If I could just answer, Anderson, the paper that was published in The Lancet received not 1 cent of funding from lawyers or litigants.
Sir, did you not have a financial interest, though? Did you disclose that you were being paid by a law firm?
I disclosed in the relevant paper that I was an expert in MMR vaccine litigation, yes.
You didn't disclose you were being paid, though, for a possible lawsuit against the vaccine makers, that you were developing a patent for an alternate vaccine.
The purpose of this paper was nothing to do with the litigation. These children were seen on the basis of their clinical symptoms for their clinical need, and they were seen by expert clinicians and their disease diagnosed by them, not by me.
Sir, you're attacking the motives of journalists, though, and others who oppose you, and yet you yourself have a financial stake in the research that you were doing.
No, I didn't. The grant that was given was not given to me. It was given to the medical school to conduct a research program, not to me personally.
If your research was not a fraud, if your research was valid, why have 10 of your co-authors all retracted the paper's interpretations back in 2004?
Because I'm afraid that the pressure has been put on them to do so. And people get very, very frightened. You're dealing with some very powerful interests here. And I'm afraid the reason that they are concerned, and let me just put this to you very clearly, the reason they are concerned is because a whistleblower came to me and gave me evidence that the British government had indemnified the vaccine manufacturers for the introduction of an MMR vaccine that they knew to be unsafe and which had been withdrawn in Canada at the time. It was withdrawn 4 years later in the UK, and many children were damaged.
Sir, you've been stripped of your clinical and academic credentials. You're no longer a doctor. Your medical license has been taken away, correct?
That is incorrect. I am still a doctor. You cannot take away my degree. They have taken away my license to practice in the UK. That is irrelevant. This is part of a systematic process to prevent valid vaccine safety research. I'm not going to go away. These children are real. The experts that are here at this meeting know these children are real. They're growing in number. The experts are growing in number, and I'm afraid the manufacturers and the government are very, very frightened about what is happening.
Sir,
and they should,
what's also growing in number is the number of children who have died because they haven't been vaccinated. Do you feel any sense of responsibility for that?
I have never said not vaccinate. I have suggested that children have the option of single vaccines, and 6 months after I made that recommendation, the option of single vaccines was drawn by the British government in the UK. They are wholly reprehensible in that act. They took away the option from parents of single vaccine.
I want to bring in Dr. Sanjay Gupta because I know he has just a few questions for you as well.
When you're trying to draw this link, Dr. Wakefield, between vaccines and autism, one of the things that seems to be in question here is the timeline. And I think I have a sense of what you were writing in the Lancet paper, but two of the patients, at least, that we looked at ourselves extensively from this journal, said that one of the children had symptoms that you called autism actually before the vaccine was ever given. And another child did not develop any symptoms until 6 months after the vaccine was given. Why were they included in your study? Did they support your theory?
Please understand that the reports of the Vaccine Association came from parents. We were there to study these children and to examine their symptoms. My colleagues investigated them according to clinical need. The purpose of the study was not to look at MMR vaccination. That was irrelevant. Whether the parents cited vaccination was the cause or not, in their opinion. They had bowel disease. They had bowel symptoms. No one had taken those seriously, and that is why they were there. They were not there for litigation, and they were not there because they had made an association or not with MMR vaccine. It just so happened that they had made an association in many cases, and those were faithfully reported, and those have been grossly distorted by Brian Deer.
Well, I mean, he clearly states, again, based on interviews with parents, which you say he did not have, but based on what he says he had these interviews with parents, these children had symptoms ahead of time. But with regard to the bowel disease, there were also tests done of these children's bowels. In certain cases, you said that they had obvious evidence of inflammatory bowel disease, but none of the hospital records on several of those patients, those 12 patients, actually confirm that. How does that work for you?
Doctor, you will understand this, so let me make it absolutely clear. What we did was to reevaluate the biopsies because there was disagreement between various people. So an expert pathologist was brought in to review the biopsies blinded. And this is in his statement to the GMC. He made the diagnosis, not me. And he, the professor of pathology, reviewed the biopsies without knowing whom they came from. And he was the one who made the final diagnosis that is described in the paper, and that is the final analysis that was put into the paper about the children's bowel disease. It was not made by me, and it was not made based on routine reporting because of disagreement between those making the reports. And that is clearly stated. It was clearly stated at the GMC, and if Brian Deer has not told you that, then again, he is guilty of leaving out salient facts which have distorted the truth.
Dr. Wakefield, I mean, I just want to ask one more thing. I mean, since 1998, you've obviously been dealing with this, but these charges that are a big deal in the world of science, that you paid patients, that you did not randomize them, meaning you selected patients that you thought would be better for your study, and now the most damning evidence of all, that perhaps these numbers, the dates were all fabricated to sort of make a case. Did you have some sort of preconceived notion of a link between the vaccine, MMR, and autism before you conducted this study?
Absolutely not. Dr. Gupta, please, I urge you, go and read my book. I'll send you a copy. I'm not trying to promote my book. I'm not trying to make money. Take the book and read it and understand the truth. You will understand it. Many people don't. The parents understand it. They get it because they've lived it, okay? And the claims to whether the vaccine caused their children harm or not came from the parents, not me. I didn't have a preconceived notion about this at all. I hadn't heard of autism since medical school. And this was a clinical examination of children on the merits of their clinical problems by the best people in the world, best clinical experts in pediatric gastroenterology in the world. And they came to the diagnosis, not me. Well, and if Brian Deer thinks that he can pit his own expertise against some of the best people in the world, well, good luck to him. But please, I urge you, and I urge your readers and your viewers to read the book, because then you will understand the truth and how it has been distorted in this way.
Andrew Wakefield, I appreciate you being on the program. Thank you very much.